As Ajahn Prapot suggested that would like to hear something about how Buddhist studies has been developed in Thai higher education. So I have been kind of trying to focus on the theme, and accordingly I have titled my keynote speech as From Pāli to Policy. Well, over the last 100 years, Buddhist studies in Thailand has taken shape within two interconnected frameworks: the traditional monastic institution rooted in a Pāli scholarship, and the modern secular universities influenced by state policies and global academic standards. I have often heard older monks share stories about their educational experiences, sitting on the temple floor, memorizing scriptures, and debating doctrines late into the night. This temple-based learning, steeped in monastic tradition, is where our journey begins today. In this keynote, we'll explore how this traditional system has evolved into the institutionalized, policy-driven field of Buddhist studies found in Thai universities today. This evolution involves not just institutions, but also the people and ideas within them, filled with the challenges and new opportunities. The title, From Pāli to Policy, captures both a literal and metaphoric journey. It emphasizes how the study of Pāli, once limited to monk scriptural training, has transformed into a structured program offering degrees, research opportunities, and doctoral theses. At the same time, it points to how Buddhist studies are increasingly influenced by the state regulations, university accreditation, and international academic expectations. This keynote raises 4 guiding questions. How has the Thai state impacted the development of Buddhist studies through legislation, funding, and educational policy? 2, what does the transition from traditional Buddhist education to academic Buddhist studies involve? 3, how do the curricula of secular universities and monastic institutions like Chulalongkorn Rachavidyalaya and Mahamakut Buddhist University differ in terms of philosophy, content, and teaching methods? And 4, what power dynamics exist between the state, the Sangha, and the global academic community? And how do these influence the autonomy and direction of Buddhist studies in Thailand? Drawing on historical examples, curriculums analysis, and discussion with scholars and policymakers, I will argue that Buddhist studies in Thailand represent not just an academic reform, but also a cultural and a political reconfiguration. They reflect broader tensions between religion and modernity, local identities and global context, as well as tradition and innovation. This keynote proposes a forward-thinking framework for critical Buddhist pedagogy, one that maintains the depth of scriptural study while also embracing relevance across disciplines. This approach, I believe, has the potential to give Thai Buddhist studies renewed significance in the 21st century, both on national and global scale. Buddhist study today, especially in modern universities, is a secular scholarly field focused on the objective examination of Buddhism, its texts, practices, philosophies, rituals, and cultural expressions. This scholarly exploration began to take form in post-Enlightenment Europe, where comparative religion became a recognized discipline. In the 19th century, figures like Eugene Bonoff and T.W. Rhys Davids laid the groundwork with their philological and historical methods. Their work helped establish Buddhist studies as a distinct field rooted in philology, translation, and comparative study. though it has since expanded to include areas like anthropology, history, and cultural studies. Banoff's emphasis on linguistic accuracy and historical context remain foundational. Given this intellectual history, Buddhist studies often carries an outsider's perspective, known as ethic. Even when conducted by practicing Buddhists, the discipline necessitates a separation aimed at understanding Buddhism as a cultural, historical, and religious phenomenon. This is what sets apart Buddhist studies, sometimes referred to as Buddhology, from actual Buddhist practice. In contrast, Buddhist education signifies the traditional monastic learning system that emphasizes holistic personal growth. This type of education is not just about intellectual development, but also about moral and spiritual cultivation, aiming to shape disciplined, compassionate, and wise practitioners. It transmits doctrines, ethics, and practices through experiential learning, ethical discipline, and guidance aligned with Buddhist principles. The focus here is mainly religious, to preserve, to protect, and to disseminate the teaching of the Buddha. In Thailand, the educational approach revolves around three main practices: Dhammadesana, preaching the doctrine; Dhammasavana, listening to the doctrine; and Dhammasakacha, doctrinal discussion. These three practices incorporate memorization, recitations, and debate, with an emphasis on personal transformation rather than detached analysis as a science. You can see a parallel, though with different objectives, between Buddhist education and Buddhist studies. Within monastic traditions, Dhammasakacha, doctrinal discussions, and Dhammavichaya, one of the 7 factors of enlightenment that focuses on investigating phenomena, fosters analogical engagement with the Buddha's teaching, prompting students to discern truth from error and enrich their spiritual understanding. This represents an emic hermeneutics, rooted in the practitioner's religious worldview and aimed at liberation. In contrast, Burnoff's philological method illustrates an ethic hermeneutic, which, while rigorous and textual precise, remain external to the tradition and seeks historical and cultural understanding instead of spiritual transformation. Thus, Buddhist education is emic, grounded in faith and liberation, while Buddhist studies is ethic, methodologically distanced and focused on cultural and historical comprehension. Understanding this distinction is essential for grasping the institutional development of Buddhist studies in Thailand. This is the one of the seminal book by Eugène Burnoff, which was in French before, Introduction à l'histoire du bouddhisme, which was published in 1826. This is considered as one of the seminal book, or seminal way of the one who regarded as a father of Buddhist studies in the West. For centuries, Thai monasteries served as the preliminary center of education. During King Narai's reign in the 17th century, curricula and examinations, Parian, were formalized, assessing monks on Pāli text and granting them ecclesiastical title along with social prestige. A significant shift happened under King Mahamakut, the Rama IV, whose Dhammayuttika reforms highlighted reason, scriptural integrity, and meditation. He opposed superstitions, Achinnakapika, pushed for a return to the Pāli canon, and portrayed Buddhism as in line with science and modern knowledge. Although not intended as a sect, his reforms laid down the groundwork for modern Buddhist studies in Thailand, fostering both emic and ethic approaches. His son, His Royal Highness Prince Vajrayana Warorot took it a step further by restructuring Buddhist education to prioritize direct study of the Pāli canon. This intellectual atmosphere paved the way for later Thai Buddhist masters like Somdet Praputakosacharya and Buddhadasa Bhikkhu, who contributed to modern doctrinal interpretation. Meanwhile, King Mongkut's emphasis on meditation bolstered the Thai forest tradition under Ajahn Mun. King Chulalongkorn, King Rama V, further institutionalized these reforms. Recognizing the need to modernize Buddhist education, he founded two higher learning institutions, Maha Chulalongkorn Rajavidyalaya, or MCU, in 1889 and renamed later in 1896, and Mahamakut Buddhist University, or MBU, in 1893. Both institutions blended traditional Pāli scholarship with Western academic subjects like philosophy, languages, social sciences, and education, becoming hybrid entities, part seminary and part modern university. His Royal Holiness Prince Vajrayana Warorot, the MBU founder, outlined three main goals for establishing MBU: to provide education for monks and novices, to integrate national and international sciences, and to propagate Buddhism. Especially the second goal clearly reflects the inclusion of secular scholarship within Buddhist education, positioning Mahamakut as one of the earliest centers for Buddhist studies in Asia. King Chulalongkorn's reform institutionalized King Mongkut's rationalist approach, bridging Buddhist education with secular learning and creating the first Thai framework for Buddhist studies. Despite their early foundations, the formal academic standing of the MCU and MBU was not fully recognized until later. In 1969, the Sangha Supreme Council acknowledged their role in higher education. This was followed by the 1984 Act on the Academic Standing of Graduate in Buddhist Studies, and finally, the 1997 University Acts, which granted MCU and MBU full public university status with state funding. Today, both universities offer programs from bachelor's to doctoral levels for monks and lay students alike, providing religious and international academic training. However, while these institutions were founded in the spirit of Buddhist studies, the actual curriculum didn't develop as such. The academic study of Buddhism was often merged with philosophy and religion topics. It wasn't until 1987 that MCU began offering degrees specifically in the Buddhist studies. And in 1992, saw MBU introduce its first proper Buddhist study course. At this stage, Buddhist studies in Thailand achieved formal recognitions as an academic discipline, paralleling but not identical to the Western model pioneered in Europe. If we compare Thailand's path with that of the West, the differences become apparent. In the West, Buddhist studies emerged as a secular academic field grounded in philology, led by Eugene Vanov, like this one. And conversely, in Thailand, Buddhist studies gradually evolved from monastic reform and state-led institutionalization. Although Thailand was ahead in establishing Buddhist higher education compared to the West, its approach emerged as a reformist extension of monastic education, rather than a completely secular discipline. Just as Berner's philological work laid the groundwork for Buddhist studies in Europe, so did King Mongkut's reforms and King Chulalongkorn institutions create a unique Thai pathway, similar in aim but differing in execution, towards the modern academic study of Buddhism. The Thai experience showcased a hybrid model, Buddhist studies arising from within Buddhist education itself, as opposed to external scholarly critique, which is more characteristic of the West. Alongside monastic institutions, Thai secular universities began including Buddhist studies in their offerings, typically within the humanities and or social sciences. This shift was driven by state interest in the cultural identity, academic motivations for comparative studies, and the demands of international scholarship. The focus shifted away from spiritual study for spiritual growth and towards theoretical analysis for academic exploration. The term Buddhist study has only recently entered the Thai higher education's lexicon around 3 decades ago. The first formal initiative came from Chulalongkorn University, which is here, which established the Center for Buddhist Studies in 1993 to advance research, education, and application of Buddhism to contemporary issues, making it a national and international hub. Following Chulalongkorn, other secular universities like Dhammasakiyo and Mahidol introduced Buddhist studies program to cater the growing scholarly interest. Building on the historical foundations of Buddhist education in Thailand, the integration of Buddhist institutions into national higher education system brought about significant structural change. These shifts demonstrate how the traditional monastic learning model has been reshaped, sometimes smoothly, sometimes with friction, by state policies, global academic expectations, and societal demands. For example, in the field of curriculum standardization, the Office of the Higher Education Commission took charge of accrediting and standardizing Buddhist studies program. Curricula had to adhere to outcome-based education, adopt modular system, and align with employability frameworks. While this led to a greater formal recognition, it is also imposed pressures to conform the state-defined models that don't always resonate with traditional Buddhist teaching method. So, the Buddhist study in our country has a lot of strength, a lot of limitations. It is not like West. It's a pure science. It's a pure academic exercise. But here, no. Whatever the program, whatever the research you do, you have to answer the state, whether you are applying the state law or not, you are applying the state policy or not. The second thing, in terms of research and funding and metrics, both monastic and secular programs have been encouraged to produce research meeting international standards. That's a good one. Publications in English, critical theory, and comparative methodologies have received priority. This has enhanced global visibility for Thai Buddhist scholarship, but at times overshadowed traditional learning and contemplative research that holds significant value in Buddhist knowledge. So if you apply for some kind of research fund, but whatever you are doing the research, it is not kind of answering the state policy. It was not answering that. It is not going to add on the employability, then you tend to not get that funded. So even you want to do for the kind of independent research by the scope, by the whatever you got the conditions here within the state's policy, you are not allowed to, or you are not able to do that as free as you wish, as you think, as in the West. On the third level, quality assurance mechanism. All programs now face internal and external evaluations as being a part of the universities, particularly from the Office of National Education Standards and Quality Assessments. While these mechanisms ensure accountability and uniformity, they can inadvertently limit intellectual flexibility and responsiveness in Buddhist studies. As I said earlier, when they have this quality assurance, the first thing they will ask that, how many of your graduates was employed? So the main idea they will look at is that employment So Buddhist study, whatever you are doing, research, or you are doing anything, so it has to be really measured based on what is the outcome of the state economics. It is not kind of for the sake of education, or for the sake of the science or scholarship. And finally, the political influence and the state narratives. Buddhist education has increasingly been used as a tool for cultural diplomacy and national cohesion. Curricula often emphasize Thai Buddhist identity, sometimes sacrificing recognition of intra-Buddhist diversity and global perspectives. This creates a delicate balance between academic and state-sponsored narratives. So, as a state, you have your own agenda. If the state is funding whatever it is, so you have to reply to their demanding whether it is really helping the state economics or not. So, we lost as a scholar, as academic, where we are going to stand. If we are going to do our real, free, independent, not biased kind of a science way of doing study ourselves, but there is no way that you can be granted or funded by government funding. Because it's against, because in Thailand we say there's three institutions: the nation, religion, that is Buddhism, and the monarchy. So if you are going against this thing, so you are not a scholar. The scholar have to go with these policies. So where is the independence of the scholarship here? So therefore, even with these reforms, several unresolved tensions persist. And the one thing is the knowledge paradigm. The faith-based contemplative and experiential epistemologies found in traditional Buddhist education often clash with the secular, critical, and analytical frameworks of modern academia. For example, let's say that a Buddhist university like Maha, Chula, MCU, and MBU, were they allowed to have this freedom of academic exercise and then able to criticize on the Sangha or not? I guess if any research came out from those universities and criticizing their own Sangha, I guess that is not a good research at all. Or even on the process of doing that, you will be already blocked before. So this is one of the knowledge paradigm we have to face, the reality. Dual authority structures pictures the leadership of Buddhist university as a ship with two captains. One captain, the Sangha, or ecclesiastical authority, guides the vessel based on the centuries of religious tradition and monastic law. The other captain, the state and its educational regulations, steers in line with modern standards, academic criteria, and national priorities. Though both captains want to lead the ship to success, their directions sometimes conflict, creating tensions in daily operations and the long-term vision of these universities. So where university going to head? We have two captains here, and their demand is totally different. Global versus local priorities. A widening gap has developed between the international Buddhist scholarship and local Thai curricula, particularly concerning English medium instructions, intercultural competence, and participation in global discussions. Lastly, the student motivation and market value. Graduates in Buddhist studies often struggle in the job market, as the discipline isn't always seen as market relevant. This had to dwindling enrollment numbers and decline in public interest in the field. And for example, if you are doing Buddhist studies in the Buddhist universities, of course, you are not allowed to be a very kind of free opinion research at all, because you have to answer the value of the university, the value of the state or the Sangha as well. So you don't have that kind of freedom to look at any kind of research in a real academic or pure secular exercise. So therefore, looking ahead, Buddhist studies in Thailand should embrace reform not as a burden, but as an avenue for possibility. A forward-looking framework could be shaped along 4 key directions. 1. Adopt a critical Buddhist pedagogy. Integrate doctrinal depth with historical awareness. Balance scriptural study with social application. Unite contemplative practice with critical inquiry. 2. Design interdisciplinary curricula. Link Buddhist thought with global concerns such as ecology, peace building, mental health, and digital culture, which is we are quite behind of these. Even when we're trying to do that, we are not kind of assimilating both as a true sciences. Let's say that we are about Buddhism and digital media, for example, digital culture, for example. So what we do is that we are trying to explain the Buddhism, we are trying to explain the digital culture, and then, we are trying to force that. You see, they are similar. We are not kind of really embedding, really kind of marrying these two as a one science, as a one way of looking at it. So this is a very, very difficult challenge for us to how do we look at it? Instead of looking at a separate Buddhism as a science and digital culture as a science, there's two sciences. How do we marry them together and then come out with a very productive sort of a productions or kind of a knowledge? That is what we always lack in. Position Buddhist studies as a contributor to solving contemporary social and ethical challenges. And that is again far behind. In Thailand, the way of research is sometimes very, very, very hypocrite. For example, they will ask you to research in the university. They say that 5 precepts can solve the corruption. I don't know how these two is related. Of course, ideologically it could, it might be, but they will go to research and that. And someone will say, and some student will come and say that 5 precepts solve corruptions in Bangkok. Then he will come with this another one. Then other student will come, 5 precepts solve corruption in Chiang Mai. So this is what even the research committee here, they will ask you to do like that. Because then it can answer you that, okay, this is really answering what the government is wanting. But disregarding it's really work or not. So most of the research here in university, what we call is hing. So it go to the self. Never come to the practice. But by the word, yes, we have addressed the corruptions. We have addressed the development. We have addressed this and we have addressed that. Yeah, there is all those addresses there. But does it really relevant? No. And this is one of the things that we have to face in reality of Buddhist studies in Thailand. The third, bridging secular and monastic education. Create joint program, exchange faculty, and share research agenda. Again, this is very ideal, but difficult. Because every universities have their own identity. They want to reserve their identity. Buddhism talks about the no self, but there is a big self. And there is a competition in the market. So at most, what you can do is that invite to give us some lectures, but no collaboration between each other in terms of a development of the discipline in this number of curriculum, no. Establish platforms of dialogue between ecclesiastical institutions and secular universities to strengthen mutual respect and reduce. What I have seen so far is that we are so good at making MOU between the different institutions and making a ceremony, big, take photograph. We have an MOU between this institution and that institution, this university and that university. But in reality, what do you? Put in that in our agenda that we have to submit to the government that you see, we are doing kind of a very integrative work with all the other universities. But in reality, none. Embrace multilingual and multi-traditional perspective. Promote literacy in Pali, Sanskrit, and English. Very difficult, because nowadays even the Pali Sanskrit is looking at a dead language. And they said that, why? What's the point of learning that? All the Tipitaka is already in English, origin in Thai, why we have to go back and learn a Pali, which is dead language. In one occasion, I proposed a budget from government to do the International Pali Conference. And the government didn't give me a budget. And we tried to kind of lobby the budget, the committee of the budget committee. No. Finally, they asked me to go and explain to them. And then when I was in front of all the committee, the government committee, budget committee for that, they said that, why you are doing this rubbish conference in Pali? Pali is a dead language. Then I said that, really? What language you are speaking? Yeah, I'm speaking Thai. Where is Thai? The Thai word itself is a Pali. Where is the Thai? You say that this is a Torasap, this is a Dura Sabda. So where is Thai? Everything what you're speaking is a Pali. If a Pali is dead, the Thai is even not born yet. So when I explained that, they just, huh? Then they asked me that, so this amount is enough, this amount of budget is enough for that, this big conference like this? I said, more than enough. I'm not the politician want to corrupt any money of that. Just give me enough for that. I can invite all the scholars from all over the world to come and speak Pali and do all presentation in Pali and so and so. And you will see that what is important. But these days, Pali Sanskrit become a dead language and it's become option. If there is an option you are trying to avoid, you are trying to avoid. And even the study, the way you teach, even it is unreachable. I don't know whether in Chula, they are better reachable, I guess. But if it is a go to the monks, organization, Sanghas, Pali scholarship, you have to just memorize. Because when you exam, they don't exam your understanding, they exam your memory. So this is a big problem. Incorporate Mahayana and Vajrayana perspective alongside Theravada to situate Thai scholarship within regional and global networks. Again, this is a big problem in Thailand. When Thailand was doing Buddhist studies, they are always coming Theravada, our texts, our things first. So whereas we are talking with the global scholarship, we are not able to, not compatible enough to talk with about the Mahayana text a lot, Vajrayana text a lot. Even there's all the new school is coming up, but in our curriculum, in Thai curriculum, we are not open to these new field of Buddhist study at all. These four strategies, pedagogy, interdisciplinary focus, and collaboration and diversity, can together form a solid roadmap for revitalizing Buddhist studies in Thailand. If done with a vision and determination, they could allow Buddhist education to stand as a both protector of a tradition and dynamic force for shaping ethical, intellectual, and cultural futures in an interconnected world. To sum up, altogether, these structural changes, challenges, and prospects point to a field at a pivotal moment. Buddhist studies in Thailand can either remain constrained by the dual pressures of state policy and ecclesiastical oversight, or seize the chance to redefine itself as an era of intellectual innovation, ethical development, and intercultural engagement. It's in this space between preservation and transformation that the future of Buddhist education in Thailand must take shape. The journey from Pali to policy entails more than a shift from monastic learning to a national academic enterprise. It's a chance for Thailand to lead in harmonizing tradition with modernity. It's about building a form of Buddhist studies that's academically rigorous, culturally relevant, and globally engaged. The aim is to move beyond mere academic formalities or nationalistic indoctrination, creating a vibrant discipline that provides not just a degree, but direction, not only knowledge, but wisdom. This is the challenge we face. To anchor our tradition while confidently stepping into a connected world. For Buddhist studies in Thailand to thrive, it must learn to balance one foot deeply rooted in tradition with the other stepping boldly into the future. This isn't a choice between the past and present. It's a dialogue between wisdom and change. By adopting critical pedagogy, interdisciplinary approaches, collaboration and diversity, we can transform Buddhist studies into a living bridge, connecting the monastery and university, Thailand and the world, scholarship and practice. As we gather to honor Her Royal Highness, Princess Maha Chakri Sirindhorn, on her 70th birthday, may this vision reflect her lifelong commitment to education, culture, Buddhism, or Buddhist study, and the preservation of wisdom traditions. The task ahead is not only to preserve what has been entrusted to us, but to imagine what can still be offered. A Buddhist education that resonates with the heart, engages the mind, and serves humanity. Thank you.
สาธุ